And we'll do this. How can I be angry and calm all at the same time? Well, the first step, and I think invariably, the first steps are understanding the mechanics, like I've talked about many times, of what we're really talking about. You can go to workshops and seminars and whatever on how to manage your money, how to manage your weight, how to manage your, I don't know, whatever, cutting the grass, how to manage. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on, right? But, and I mean, it's more now. But how many workshops and things like that are there from a mechanical perspective on understanding and managing things like the topic of this, which are emotions? Not that many. Not from, again, a mechanical perspective. Like pieces go here, pieces go here, pieces go here. You don't have to sort of go into a trance or levitate or anything to use these things. And that's the thing. When you really need to use these techniques, you don't have time. Right? You don't have time to create, and not that there's anything wrong with this, to create a sacred space, or to do this, or to set this up, or to kind of break out the incense or something like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course. But there's those times in sort of our everyday lives when we need to be able to use this. And it's got to be simple, because you don't have time to do anything else, right? It's got to happen now. I got to do this now, right? Okay, so I'm going to use the example. I have a window right here in the office, and I hate using this one because it's so warm. It's summer now, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's the middle of winter, and I'm inside my office, and I'm looking out the window at a blizzard. And it's cold, and the wind is blowing, and it's just miserable. Oh, here we go. Here's one that's more timely because it happened just a few days ago. It is June, end of June of 2022, and there's a big-ass rainstorm outside, and the wind's blowing, and the rain's pelting down, and the trees are doing this back and forth. But I'm inside my office looking out the window at the storm. Is the storm there? Absolutely. Am I aware that the storm is there? Absolutely. Can I hear the rain? Can I see the rain? Can I hear the wind? Absolutely. Now, if I stood close to the window, I would probably even feel the coolness coming through the glass. So I'm very aware that the storm is there. But I'm observing the storm. I'm not in the storm. I'm in my office watching the storm. I'm not outside in the storm. This is the first thing that we need to understand, is that we have these vibrational states of being, if you will. These it's like different floors. I've often used this example like an outdoor parkade. It's different floors in the parkade, and all those floors are there. You just choose which floor you're standing on. And because it's an outdoor parkade, you stand on the floor and you can look out and you can see outside. So these different floors in the parkade are what I call emotional states. They're static, right? You can move between them, but they're static. Then the storm out here, right? You're looking out. That's an emotional journey. Now, this storm that I'm looking at, I'm mixing my analogies here, but go with it. This storm that I'm looking at from the parkade, we'll switch to the parkade. This storm that I'm looking at from the parkade, it wasn't always there. Right? It was sunny. Oh, it was sunny like half an hour ago. And then all of a sudden, here's this storm. It blows in, and here's the storm, and it's rain, and it's wind, and I'm aware of it. Yeah, I like the parkade. So I'm standing at the edge of the parkade. Maybe a little bit of the water is kind of splashing in. But I know that the storm won't last. I know the storm has a beginning. This is huge. A beginning, a middle, and an end. Now, even though I may be getting a little bit wet because some of the rain is blowing in, I'm not in the storm getting soaked. I know that if I go out of the parkade, I'm going to get soaked. And then, even when the storm is over, I'm still soaked, right? But if I stay in the parkade watching, when the storm is over, it may be a little bit damp, but when the storm is over, I walk outside, sun shining, and I'm good. The parkade levels are these emotional states. And to give them labels, we could say peace. So there's this level in the parkade that you could call peace. And from that level, you can look out and you can see what's happening outside. And maybe it's sun, maybe it's rain, maybe it's a blizzard, maybe it's whatever. And so you're very aware of these emotional journeys, but you're not in the middle of them. And that's the key. The key is I am on these different levels in the parkade. And while these emotions, these emotional journeys that have a beginning, a middle, and an end are very real, I don't have to like them. But as long as I stay in the parkade, I'm just observing them. And when the storm is over, I go out and nice and dry. But if I hop outside and get stuck in them, even when the storm is over, I'm still soaking wet. And this is what happens. And this is why practicing a meditative practice, whatever that looks like for you, it allows us, and it's really a neat experience because it's not something that you make happen, it's something that you slip into. You slip into something, here's a label again, something they call the observer. And that's all that it is. It's not really anything fancier than it needs to be. You just slip into that moment where you're starting to observe what's happening around you. You're not caught up in it. And I find whatever meditative practice you choose, we've got a lot of them, different styles, different techniques. One of the byproducts of that consistent practice, and it's the coolest thing ever. I can remember one of the first times that I had this experience. I was way back in the beginning, going to a little meditation gathering here in Red Deer, Alberta, Canada. And I was sitting in a place, it was a summer like this. You guys that are local have lived here, Bower Ponds. And I was sitting on the hill. I remember this so clearly, sitting on the hill at Bower Ponds, and I was looking out, and it was a warm day, so it was busy and all sorts of stuff happening. And I just sort of slipped into that observer mode, that place of peace, where I was watching everything around me. It was this, it was this, it was this. But I was observing it. I wasn't in the middle of it. Now, one of the indicators that you've slipped into this, I'll use that phrase, is there's not a lot going on up here. There's not a lot of busyness in your thoughts. You're not doing it, often really not doing any reliving of the past or pre-living of the future. It's just so peaceful because there's not a lot of this going on. You're just simply watching. You're watching this, you're watching this, you're watching this. And so many of the thoughts that are moving around in your head are not referencing what happened and what might happen. They're reference to what you're observing. You're observing, there's geese down there. You're observing the geese. I wonder how many, I'm making stuff up now. Wonder how many geese there are this year. Or you're watching a family getting into a little paddle boat and you think, oh, that's kind of fun. Take a paddle boat ride and things like that. But the thoughts that are going around in your head are very reference to what's happening here, not what has happened or what may happen. And then as you practice that, and again, it's really practicing. It's not something I find that you can force. You do the exercises, the ones that work for you, and you will find you'll slip into that perspective. You'll slip into the parkade. And it doesn't matter really what floor you're on in the parkade. Some are more fun than others, but you're now observing what's going on around you. And then when the emotional journeys that are designed to have a beginning, a middle, and an end happen, you still feel them. I'm not saying you have to like them all or, wow, this is so pleasant, and it's not. But the difference is When the journey is over, just like the storm, you're not wet. But you see, for so many of us, we never get in the parkade. And so here comes the storm. The storm is over, but we're not, because we're soaking wet and we carry that with us. And then another storm happens. And before you get a chance to dry out, guess what? Another storm happens and you're soaked. Another storm happens and you're soaked. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on. But if we can get out of that, get into the parkade, so now we're observing it, we still feel it, we're still very aware of it, but we're not in it. So then when it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, we're not carrying any of that. We go outside, sun shining, and we just enjoy this present moment experience. That was really good. Thanks for tuning in, guys.